Hi, I'm Anson Pang, and this is my Geography 167 final project. The theme of my webpage is the value of education attainment, and specifically, I'm referring to the economic value of education. So the general consensus is that if one gets a higher educational attainment, their income would increase as well. And I'm interested to see this relationship spatially, and I want to map the education and economic variables out. With this webpage, I hope to reach three incentives. Firstly, I wish individuals who browse this webpage to finish. I encourage them to finish their high school education and even pursue higher education if they want. Secondly, to policymakers, they should really focus on education if they really want to develop a region's economy. And thirdly, if we all acknowledge that education is important, then we have to ensure that education is accessible to everyone equally. So I started off my webpage with a simple reference map with two layers, the state layer and the high school layer, to let users visualize the distribution of high schools in the United States. It's very simple, so I'm going to move on. So to examine the relationship, I've made a map on ArcGIS online, and I've actually opened it on another tab here. So, yes. So, again, I want to see the relationship between economic and education metrics, and with the economic metric, I've used median income of a county to represent the region's general economic state, and it is represented by the polygons in this map. If you see a purple polygon, the county has a lower median household income on average, and the green polygons represent counties that have a higher median household income average. So, I've also used the diverging color scheme after playing around with some different color schemes, because I feel like this highlights the two sides of the income range. So on the left map, I've actually mapped the one type of educational attainment. The red circles here indicate the percentage of a population of a county that has achieved at least a bachelor's degree. So as we can see, the largest circles depict that over 70% of the population in that county has a bachelor's degree or more. And we can see that the largest circles usually lie on top of the green polygons, and we can see a correlation happening. I just want to note that I've also played around with data classification, and around 65% of the data are in the smallest category to highlight trends. So on the right map, I have used a different color to indicate and illustrate a different educational attainment stage, where yellow circles are used to illustrate the percentage of a population that does not have a high school diploma. So the polygons are the same to standardize economic metrics, and we can see the largest yellow circles are lying on top of purple polygons, and this again supports the argument and correlation that is mentioned previously. So each map is actually really strong on its own, I think, but the slider definitely further supports the data and argument when you see the data side by side. And I'm pleased to see, how simple and user-friendly this map is. Last thing, if you want to zoom out, I have, generalized the data and combined them to a state layer. However, I think it'll be more useful to examine the data in the county level scale. So back to the web page. These are some results and analysis, which I've discussed just now. And moving on to our last theme, which is education is not equally accessible. And I want to see which or whether like socioeconomic variables play a role in this. And the first variable that comes to mind that affects, equal accessibility is race. And I was wondering whether areas with a higher minority community percentage would lead to, less schools in that area. And I made several maps in ArcMap to examine this relationship here. So I would open it up in images here. So I have made 2 dot density maps for Los Angeles County and Merced County in California to examine race and the distribution of schools. So I've used a dot density because I was more interested in the racial makeup of the area. As you can see here, the green, really strong green color represents a domination of Latino people in this area, whereas areas like these, you can see a mixture of purple and green, which indicates that the population is mixed here. And because the results are so mixed, I can't really make any conclusive conclusions from this map. But before I finish, I will also want to discuss some of the cartographic principles I have used. So firstly, instead of using schools as markers, I have actually depicted them with buffer zones. This is so that I can take into account of, students walking distance from their home to school. And I've used 2 mile as the basis of the radius and buffer zone, because that's the average value that's reported online. I've also only used walking distance so that I don't discriminate against households who cannot afford a vehicle. So personally, I think that the buffer zones really pop out, and you can obviously see the results here. Okay, so the second principle I've played around with is colors, and when I was exploring the data, it was obviously that the Hispanic and white populations would dominate, so I have to choose 2 very different colors to depict these 2 different layers. Other than that, I've also made 2 different maps, so I have to standardize the colors, and I've used the HSV scheme to standardize between these 2 maps so readers are not confused. Thirdly, I played around with the legend, and the symbols here are very simple changes, but I figure really upgrades the map. And also enlarge the circles so that the colors are more obviously seen and readers can understand the map more easily. And lastly, I've used a white background for this polygon and highlighted the perimeter to add visual contextualization. So yes, I cannot make any conclusive conclusions, but I've also explored other confounding factors that could come in play here. So lastly, conclusion, I have summed up the web page and also included some improvements I can have, including, testing out one variable at a time to see if it really affects the distribution of schools. So thank you for listening, and I hope you learned more about the economic value of education attainment, and have a great day.